Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Suranjali Seal, and like I always say, if you are somebody that loves literature and is all about literature, then this is the channel for you. Now in our video today, we're going to begin a new topic, the Anglo-Norman period. Now before I go ahead with the discussion, I would like to mention that I have recently published my own poetry collection, and if you want to show support and want to give a chance to my writings, then you can find it in the link provided in the description section down below. It's available on Amazon and it's entitled Candidly Speaking, and I have just recently published it, and that's part of the reason why I was not being able to give as many videos as I like, because April has been very eventful for me. So if you would want to read my poetry collection, then please make sure you give it a try. Like I said, it's available on Amazon and I'm really hoping that you enjoy it. Now without any further ado, we're going to get into the Anglo-Norman period. Now just like I did the Anglo-Saxon period, where in one video I covered the historical background, the basic, and then I went into the literary characteristics and the works, I'll do the same thing for this video as well. We're going to talk about the historical background in this in this video, so that you understand the way England, its language, the English language, and the politics that shaped this country, and bringing it to what we know as England, the formation of England, right? So Anglo-Norman period, this is the historical background. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. So we are going to talk about the recaps and the takeaways, as we always do in our other videos. So in my previous two videos, what did we talk about? In the Anglo-Saxon period, we talked about how it was a Celtic land, right? Celtic period. There was these were the indigenous people living in Britain, the Celts, right? They were living there. Then we have the Romans, okay, coming and invading England. So you have Roman Britain. Then you have sub-Roman Britain, okay, and after that you have the Anglo-Saxon period, where you have the Heptarchy, the sub-Roman periods, and then the Anglo-Saxons and Jutes come and invade, right? So the Anglo-Saxon period, where more or less the picture that I've given on the screen right now, where you have Northumbria, you have Mercia, East Anglia, Essex, Wessex, Kent, and Sussex. These were the major Anglo-Saxon kingdoms that we have discussed about. That these were the more or less the kingdoms that were functioning, and this was the period where England got a shape, this country, or this idea of Angleland or England, right? There's a shape that has been given to this country, that this area is England or Angleland. It is before that, it was part of the Roman Empire. So, England had not was not existing as a country as we know now. It was just part of a part of the Roman Empire, where Celts were living. And then when the Romans came and invaded it, and then the sub-Roman period, when the Roman Empire started declining, we gave way, or it made way for the Anglo-Saxons and Jutes to come and invade this area. And gradually, as periods of war was being fought again and again and again and again, and then you have the Viking invasions that were having these this heptarchy, these states, Anglo-Saxon states, were constantly fighting with the Vikings. They were constantly in strife with or against the Vikings. And as all of this is going on over the years, the shape of England was being marked. This identity of England was being created, and more so, the English language was getting shape. More so, the English language was, assimilating all the languages that it came in contact with. I talked about in my previous video that Old English comprised of three languages. First, Celtic languages. Why Celtic languages? Because, Celts were living there. Then you have the Roman period, so Latin influence also came in, and then you have the Anglo-Saxon invasions, and then you have the influence of the Germanic tribes. All of this I've done in detail, so if you've watched my previous videos, and this should be very clear to you. So all of this has happened. So English as a language was also taking shape gradually. It was all encompassing, absorbing constantly, and developing, evolving, right? And then what happens is, there are circumstances that lead up to the Anglo-Norman invasions, and that's what we have to understand. So we have to understand what are the circumstances under which the Anglo-Saxons actually declined, and made way for the Anglo-Normans to come over and to come and take over. So what is the situation like? Okay, so I'll tell you. You can see in the second picture, which I have included, there's England marked in yellow. Right at the top of the picture, there's England, and down there's France, right? There's France and there's England, and in between you have a body of water, right? There's a way, there's this channel in between. It is known as the English Channel. I'm marking it over here. This is the English Channel. So there's the English Channel is separating France and England. Is this clear? So you have England and France over here. So France had a ruler. England at the time was under the Anglo-Saxons, and Vikings were constantly fighting with them, okay? Vikings were coming, attacking, looting, going, coming, attacking, settling also, like that. You know, it was a period of war and strife. All of this is going on. Now, the situation was that during the Viking Age, okay, Rollo and his Viking raiders were active in the region of West Francia, raiding and causing unrest. West Francia is this area, okay, this whole English Channel area, right? This whole area, they were using it to attack. They were attacking England also, they were attacking France also. So they were looting and raiding and attacking these areas, right? Vikings were a group of fierce warriors. So they were actually in this English Channel, they were very active, and they were actually attacking both sides, okay? This was a period of, again, turmoil, okay, and strife and war. So what happened is, this person in France, okay, there's this king, his name is Charles the Simple. So what does he do? So imagine this person in France, I'm marking here, okay, there's a king over here, and he's realizing that all in his coastline, no, there's constant strife going on. So he's not safe, like constantly Vikings are coming and attacking. So what he does is that he offers an agreement, he offers an understanding, he pushes a treaty. And what is this treaty? There's this treaty that he strikes with Rollo. Okay, this Rollo, this fierce Viking warrior, right? He strikes a deal with Rollo, and he says he wants to stabilize the region. He does not want to continuously be attacked, right? There's continuous attacks, happening. So he wants to strike a treaty, an understanding with Rollo. And what is this understanding? The treaty. Charles the Simple, seeking to stabilize the region, offered Rollo land in exchange for his loyalty and protection against other Viking raiders. So you see here, I've actually just a little higher up Paris, there's this yellow area which I've marked in on the map, and this is Normandy, right? You can see the name Normandy here. So this area, okay, the King of France offered to Rollo. He said that, okay, you come, you take this area of land, you rule here, whatever you want to do, you rule here. But in exchange for this land, you give me your loyalty. For example, I'm giving an example only over here. That suppose I have a huge kingdom, right? And you're raiding and looting one part of my kingdom, constantly raiding and causing me a lot of trouble. So I'll approach you. It's diplomacy, right? I'll approach you and I'll say, see, you stop raiding my areas, right? The coastline, you stop raiding it. I'll permanently give you one land, one piece of area, right? I'll give you this area. You rule there. You do whatever you want. You set up base there. You rule there. You make your men come and stay there. Do whatever. You rule as you want, but leave the rest of my kingdom alone. Please do not disturb me and my people anymore. So you will say, okay, you're giving me land. Yes, what do you want in exchange for it? So I'll say, see, I'm giving you land just when I need help. Or whenever I need, whenever I go to war, then you have to pledge your loyalty. You have to give me military assistance. You have to give me soldiers. You have to help me out whenever I need you. And in exchange, you keep this land with you. You stay happy. So what Rollo did was he accepted that treaty. Rollo, he actually pledged his loyalty to Charles the Simple. He said, okay, I'm taking your land. I'm going to stay here from now. I'm going to set up base here from now. And in exchange, I give you my loyalty. That is, whenever you need me, I'm going to be there. Okay. So Rollo agreed to swear fealty to Charles. That is, he swore his loyalty. He swore his loyalty to Charles, converted to Christianity, and defend the Seine estuary. That is, that entire area. That Seine estuary. It's a place just near there, along the English Channel. He said, I am going to protect this place from further Viking rulers. You have to understand, Vikings were not like a country and identity. Vikings were different clans or groups, you can say. For example, I'm giving a layman's example over here. One village is there, one village is here, one village is here, one village is here. They're all Vikings, they're all Vikings. but they're fighting amongst each other also. They're not friends. This village and this village and this village and this village share the same identity, but they're not friends. This village wants to attack that village and take it. This village wants to attack this village and take it, expand, and at the same time they were expanding outside also. They were attacking the coastlines of France, England, constantly attacking. They want to loot, raid, and also settle, expand. So these people were in constant strife in the region, right? But Rollo, what he did, he accepted the treaty. And he said that fine, I'll stay here. I will protect this land also and your land also from other Vikings. That is, those other Vikings who will come to attack the area, right? I'll defend this place. And in exchange for this land, right, I'll rule this land and I'll protect this entire region. So it was a win-win for Charles also, right? Charles was also happy because like he did not have to constantly look up at, say, he did not have to constantly put his focus into the coastline, because now Rollo is there. Rollo is going to defend the coastline for him. So it was a win-win for Charles. Now, another interesting thing happened which changed the whole course of English history, interestingly enough, and it is one of the major things, that he also pledged to marry his daughter Gisela to Rollo. So Charles the Simple gave his daughter Gisela's hand in marriage to Rollo. So Rollo and Gisela married. Now there's this intermixing that's going on. One is a Viking, the other is a Frank. Not French, we'd never call them French that time, right? That time they were known as Franks. So there was this Frank, okay, Gisela, Frank blood and Viking blood mixed together, and a whole new group is formed, okay. Now, the new duchy, see, the land granted to Rollo, primarily Upper Normandy, okay, this area which I marked here on the screen, Normandy, okay, eventually became known as the Duchy of Normandy. That is, Rollo became the Duchy of Normandy because he's ruling the area, right? Which later expanded under his descendants. That is, after Rollo, his children, his grandchildren, the great-grandchildren, no, his descendants later expanded the area. Before, it was a small area that was granted to Rollo. Gradually, it expanded, okay? So this area of Normandy was given to Rollo, a Viking king who married a Frank, that is, Gisela, okay. So, significance, the treaty marked a significant shift in the relationship between the Franks and the Vikings, because now they're friends. Now it's not just normal friendship or allegiance, there's marriage going on. So you understand, loyalty took a new turn, okay, it was cemented, the loyalty was concrete, and it was cemented with the marriage of Gisela to Rollo. So the treaty marked a significant shift in the relationship between the Franks and the Vikings, transforming the Vikings into a powerful vassal state within West Francia. So this area, now we call it France, right? Okay. But this area of Normandy, right, this side, this is the west of France, so it was known as West Francia. So this is where Rollo had been stationed, right? And it became, this whole area of Normandy, okay, became a powerful vassal state. What is a vassal state? I've already mentioned this. Vassal states are less powerful states. There's a more powerful state, say like Charles the Simple. He is more powerful. Then you have a vassal state, independent state, but the state which pledges loyalty to this bigger kingdom, bigger king. Okay, you're not bigger king, but bigger kingdom. Okay, you're pledging your loyalty to another kingdom, that whenever you need me, I'm going to be there. At the same time, you're independent also. Independently functioning, no doubt, but you also have pledged your loyalty to another king. So it's a vassal state, like you're kind of protecting, that vassal state is important, because see, you have Rollo in this area, right? I'm just marking over here. You have Rollo in the area of Normandy, and he's sitting somewhere in the capital, okay, this Charles the Simple. So since Rollo has said that I'm going to administer this area, but I'm going to protect the area as well. So now the King Charles, right, the Charles the Simple, does not have to really think about protection, does not have to think about sending his soldiers there. The Vikings are protecting it. So the Vikings are independent there. Normandy is independent, but at the same time he has pledged his loyalty to Charles the Simple, offering protection as well from further Viking raids. So what is the idea now? That there is Viking raids and wars going on in England, this part above the English Channel, and below the English Channel also Viking raids were going on, but there was a treaty that had been struck, and Rollo and Gisela marry. They intermixed, right? There's this intermixing of the Franks and the Vikings, and a new group is formed, a new ethnic group is formed. So, who are the Normans? Now, you've guessed it. The Normans were a group of people descended from Viking raiders who settled in the northern region of France, later known as Normandy, in the 9th and 10th centuries. Over time, they intermingled with the local Frankish population, developing a distinct Norman culture, language, and identity. So, you see, there's an intermingling going on, not just between the elites, not just between Rollo and Gisela. Intermixing was going on between the Vikings, the commoners, Viking commoners and French commoners, the Frankish population. They were intermingling, and a new ethnic group was formed, a new culture and identity distinct from the French and distinct from the Vikings. A new culture, new identity was formed, and these were the Normans. Now, you have to remember, I am not talking about Anglo-Normans. Anglo-Normans are different. I am talking about who were the Normans, and we will understand who the Anglo-Normans were as we move forward in this video. So I hope this is clear. Let's move on forward. Now, what was happening back in England? We talked about what happened with France, right? That this is this treaty that has been struck. Now, back across the English Channel, what was happening in the Anglo-Saxon states? So, Anglo-Saxons were waging their own war and defense against the Viking invaders. So, I told you that this was a constant along the English Channel. I'm just marking it, okay? Here, this entire place, there were various places where attacks were being made by the Vikings. Now, Normandy was already established, okay, Rollo was settled there. Now, in England also, they were constantly, the Anglo-Saxon states were waging wars against the Vikings, okay. Now, years pass by, okay. You have Rollo has a son, then you have a grandson, and Rollo passes away. Then you have great-granddaughter of Rollo, okay. So, there's a person in England, his name is Ethelred. Also known as Ethelred, okay, this is years later. Rollo has also passed away. Years and years go on, and these fights are going on, because you imagine today a marriage has taken place between Rollo and the French, suppose. So tomorrow fighting will not end. It will take time. It's going on and on. Fighting will not end. So, okay, fighting is not ending. This is going on. Now, years pass by. Rollo has a son, has a grandson. Then you have a great-granddaughter, okay? So, also known as Ethelred, at that time, he was ruling England. This is years later. He's ruling England. And then you have Emma of Normandy. In Normandy, you have Rollo's great-granddaughter, Emma, okay? She's here, and Rollo is in England. Now, what happens in 1002, their marriage was part of an attempt by Ethelred to strengthen ties with Normandy and potentially deter Viking raids, which were often launched from that region. So, see, Normandy of Emma here, you have Ethelred there. Now, Ethelred married Emma. So, you see, you have Franks, and you have Viking blood mixing. Now you have another blood mixing here, that is Ethelred. Ethelred is an Anglo-Saxon, so Saxon blood mixing here too. So he married Ethelred married Emma. And why did he do so? Again, to strengthen ties with Normandy, to strengthen ties with this powerful vassal state. He wanted to strengthen his ties. So this alliance came in handy by 1013, when the Vikings back in England became so aggressive. Vikings were raiding and settling down also, in England, as there were wars going on. So what happened is they became so aggressive that Ethelred had to flee. So he left England, he crossed the English Channel, came to Normandy and stayed there for decades. So, he became so aggressive that the Anglo-Saxons were forced to flee. They ended up in Normandy, where they stayed for decades. So, on the surface, you might say, okay, why am I giving you these facts? Because what happens next, has a lot to do with this. What happens after this has a lot to do with the Norman invasion. It is a lead up to the Norman invasion. On the surface, you might think that why is this important? Why are these marriages important? We're studying English literature. Why are we studying history? I'm not even going into the depths of what has happened. I'm giving you an overview so that, it's important to understand the background so that we understand the age. I always say this in all my videos. So, all of these things were happening that were leading up to the Norman conquest. It's not that one day the Normans just woke up and they're like, okay, we're going to go and attack the Anglo-Saxons and take over. No, in between there were so many things happening, and all of that contributed to the evolution of the English language, which we have to concern ourselves with. So here, again, I'll just repeat that you have years pass by. Ethelred from England and you have Emma from Normandy marry. Then Vikings become so aggressive in England that Ethelred flees and he comes to settle in Normandy and he stays there for decades. Okay, now we're going to look at the momentum that is picked up towards the war, the final invasion by the Normans. So let's move on further. Now, see, I just mentioned to you that it was relatively an understanding, right? Ethelred and Emma married, then they fled to Normandy and stayed there. So, since Ethelred is from England, an Anglo-Saxon king, and Emma is from, the Normandy, okay, Emma of Normandy, she was from Normandy. So, there's supposed to be friendship, right? Because you're married to somebody and there should be friendship between the kingdoms. So, you have Ethelred of England and Emma of Normandy. So, Normandy and England are supposed to be friends. But we talk about the Anglo-Norman invasion, right? The Anglo-Norman conquest of 1066. That's what we talk about. So why on earth will a friend turn on another friend? You have Ethelred of England, Emma of Normandy, they married and they're friends. So why should somebody or why should a Norman invade England? What could be the reason? That's what we have to understand, right? What are the circumstances that led somebody from Normandy to go and invade England, to consider even to turning on a friend? So what was the turning point and the bone of contention? What actually, triggered this conquest? The turning point came when the Anglo-Saxon king Edward the Confessor, who was the son of Ethelred and the Unready and Emma of Normandy. So Ethelred and Emma, they had a son. When they went to, they fled, right? They came to Normandy and they had a son. His name was Edward the Confessor. Now Edward the Confessor continued to rule then after that, right? He continued to rule England because Ethelred was from England, right? So after staying there for decades, he ruled again. Edward the Confessor did not have a son. He did not have an heir. So because he did not have an heir, the question arose as to who will take over as king next. Who will be the next king of England, because the bloodline has been stopped, right? Because King Edward the Confessor and Emma did not have a son, did not have an heir. So the Witenagemot, this is the Witenagemot, it is an Anglo-Saxon council made up of a varying number of nobles, prelates and influential officials, okay, who advise the king on administrative and judicial matters. This is not anything different. This is something we see in our country also. I'll give you an example. Suppose I'm the prime minister, or say I am the king. Just saying, okay, suppose I am say the king or the president or the prime minister of a particular country. I will have advisors, right? We have people of expertise, say somebody from the field of agriculture, somebody from the educational sector, somebody who is very adept in science and technology. They all are my council of ministers. They come to me and advise me, right, that maybe you should do this, maybe you should do that. They are like my council members. From time to time meetings are held and they advise me on how to run things, how to go ahead with plans, okay, how to plan things. So they advise me. These are people of expertise. Same way the Witenagemot was like that. In Anglo-Saxon rule, the Witenagemot was a group of noble people, a group of prelates and people from influential officials, all of them, they used to come and advise the king. So what they did was, after Edward the Confessor died, right, and he did not have an heir, they actually voted. They voted who should be the next king, because the bloodline is cut now, there's no more heir. So they voted Harold Godwinson to become the next king of England. So Harold Godwinson is voted to be a king. He is not the heir of Edward the Confessor. He's voted to be king, okay, of the throne. He's voted to sit on the throne of England as the king of England. Now another story is there. Ethelred and Emma married, right, and there was a period of strife, war, everything was going on. I told you, war with the Vikings and outside invasions, all of this was going on. It was a period of strife. So Ethelred had passed away. He died, okay. Ethelred died and Emma was alive. Emma remarried again. Emma actually married King Canute, okay, King Canute of, I think, Denmark. She married Canute. So you see, I'm giving you here all of the problems, right, that will crop up because of this, blood ties, because of this matrimonial ties that Emma had with these different people. This is what is going to happen. You have in England, you have Ethelred. Ethelred dies, and then again, Emma, she marries again the King of Denmark, and the King of Denmark at that time was King Canute, and they have a son. This son's name is Harthcanute. Okay, Harthcanute. Now, what happened is, Emma and Canute's son, Harthcanute, he actually strikes a deal with the King of Norway, Magnus. Okay, so they strike a deal that between these two people, between Harthcanute and between Magnus, these two kingdoms, in the two kingdoms, whoever will die first, okay, whoever will die first will take the other person's kingdom also. Or whoever will die first, okay, will, without an heir, so to say, will take the other person. So suppose this King Harthcanute would die, then Magnus would take over his kingdom. And if, Magnus would die, then Harthcanute would take over Norway. It's like that. Okay, the idea is like that. So now the complication, I'll tell you. Emma is from Normandy. Okay, she married Ethelred. So she also became the Queen of England, right? She became the Queen of England. She was Ethelred's queen. Then Ethelred died, and then she married Canute. So she became the King of England, or the Queen of England also. She became the Queen of Denmark also. You understand? I'm just giving an idea, okay? This is not anything concrete, just an idea. So England and Denmark became like sort of territorially became linked because of Emma of Normandy. Now, Harold III, who was the successor of Magnus, that is this person from Norway, felt that as such he had claims to the throne because of the treaty, right, that if anyone from Denmark were to pass away first, the other person would take his place. So by that logic, he was thinking that, okay, if Harthcanute will die first, right, so Denmark and England will be mine. Okay, so it's like that. So this is a complex web of, mixing that led up to the Anglo-Norman invasion. So what happened is, so you have Harold Godwinson here sitting on the throne of England, elected. Then you have the current Duke of Normandy, William, who was the great nephew of Emma of Normandy. This is again another contention. He was sitting in Normandy, right? Emma's nephew, he's the great nephew of Emma, felt that he had claims to the throne as well because of his blood ties to Emma. So Emma over here, right, it's because of her web of relations, right, the things just got complicated like that. So you have Ethelred and Emma settling. I'm just repeating this because it's important. Ethelred and Emma come to Normandy, settle there. They have a son. Okay, they have a son over here, and they have a nephew also, right? She has brothers, so they have nephew. The nephew over here, when England's throne was vacant, right? Nephew thought that I'm going to take over England because of my blood ties to my aunt. Because Emma is, I'm her nephew, great nephew. So I'm going to take over England. Similarly, Emma had married somebody from Denmark, right? And now their son and this person from Norway strike a deal that whoever will die first will take over the other one's kingdom. So what happened is, the chances are that the person here in Norway, okay, saw it as an opportunity that yes, England and Denmark can both be mine. So now what happens is, both sides decide to attack, okay, and it becomes a heavy load on Harold Godwinson. That is, you have William from Normandy also trying to attack, and then you again have Harold III, okay, who was the successor of Magnus, who felt that he had claims to the throne. He will attack from up here to England, okay, and this is where the Anglo-Saxon age will probably come to an end. So we're going to go and move on to the last slide. So what was the result? The Battle of Stamford Bridge fought on September 25th, 1066 was a decisive victory for King Harold Godwinson of England against King Harold III, Hardrada of Norway, and Harold's exiled brother Tostig. So the battle took place near Stamford Bridge, Yorkshire, and involved an invading Norwegian force that had landed in northern England. Harold Godwinson Godwinson's forces successfully defeated the Norse invaders, leading to a major victory for the Anglo-Saxons. Now see, Norse invader, because they were from Norway. So from Norway the attack happened first, okay? And this Harold Godwinson was able to defend himself, was able to defeat them. That's why it is not the Anglo-Norse invasion, or we don't say the Norse invasion of England, we say Anglo-Norman invasion of 1066 AD. Why do we say Anglo-Norman invasion of 1066 AD? Because the Normans likely won. The Norse people who had come from Norway, he defeated. Harold Godwinson defeated them. But you understand, he has a tired army. He has tired soldiers who have just fought, okay, just fought in 106. This is September 25th. You have an army who has fought, okay, and locomotion was not like now. We have big naval ships and we have tanks, and no, that time you had to actually, locomotion also was a problem. So it took a lot of physical strength and valor to actually travel all the way, fight, and then get back to your capital again. So Harold Godwinson and his men and his soldiers defeated the Norse army. They defeated it was the Norse invaders. They defeated, but now they're tired, right? They need time to regroup. They need time to retrain, to recharge, right? That time was not given, because the next attack happened from Normandy, and this happened on the 14th of October 1066 AD. So the battle took place on October 14th 1066 near the town of Hastings in Sussex, England. So who were the opposing forces? The opposing armies were the Norman French army of Duke William of Normandy, who is the great nephew of Emma of Normandy, and the Anglo-Saxon army led by King Harold Godwinson. So you see, he fought one war and the next month he has to come and fight another one. Again, he does not have time. You know, it's 25th of September and this is 14th of October. How many days do you have in between? Roughly 20. You can consider 20 days, not even 30, 20 days roughly you have to regroup with the army, travel there and fight again. So it was difficult, right? In the beginning, it seemed as if they will win, but later they were defeated. So outcome, the Normans were victorious, leading to the death of King Harold and the subsequent Norman conquest of England. So you understand how the Normans actually came to England now? They actually, the conquest happened because a lot of reasons mixed together led up to that moment. So they defeated King Harold and it began the conquest. Norman conquest of England happened. Significance: the Battle of Hastings. What was the battle between Godwinson and Norway, the Norse invaders? That was Battle of Stamford Bridge. This is the Battle of Hastings that changed the course of the English nation. Okay, Battle of Hastings was a turning point in English history, marking the end of the Anglo-Saxon era and the beginning of the Norman period. It resulted in the establishment of the Norman dynasty and had lasting effects on English language, culture, and governance. So this is how the Normans actually invaded, or the Norman conquest of England actually took place. It happened because, like I said, a lot of reasons contributed or led up to this moment in history. So now you can answer, who are the Anglo-Normans? We answered who are the Normans. They were the mixture of Franks and Vikings. Who are the Anglo-Normans? The Anglo-Normans were the ruling class in England after the Norman conquest. That is, you already have a Saxon way of life. Anglo-Saxon people were living there in England. You have a Saxon way of life. You have English, Old English being spoken by the common people. And now you have invaders, Anglo-Normans, the Normans invading England. So they were the ruling class in England because they actually went to England, stayed there, right? There should be exchange of influence, right? English influence on Normans, Normans influence on English, like that, even the language developed. So the English people, okay, or the Normans who went to England, settled there and started ruling there, they are known as Anglo-Normans. They are known as, England and Anglo or Angle land. So Anglo-Normans. So, they were a combination of Normans who we know were from Normandy, originally came from Normandy, France, as well as Bretons, Flemings, Frenchmen, and those of Anglo-Saxon and Celtic descent. So everything that has happened in the previous century, okay, now is mixing together, and the language becomes like that too. Essentially, they were the descendants of the Norman conquerors and the English population, often intermarrying and blending cultures. English was assimilating all Latin influences, Celtic influences, Germanic languages, French influences. French starts now getting into the English language as well. There's a gradual evolving or transformation taking place. English is all assimilating. It is taking words in now and transform. It will slowly, by the time we reach the Victorian age, through the history of English literature, you would have understood how English developed if you've been watching my videos. So here too, I'll repeat again, who were the Normans? The Normans were Rollo, Giselle, Mary. They stay in Normandy. They are known as Normans, mixing of Franks and Vikings. And when Emma's great nephew, finally he invades England, the Norman conquest of England happens, and they go and settle there in England. Those people who intermarry there in England are known as Anglo-Normans. So this is the history of the Anglo, or the historical background. I've given just a gist because of course we're not going into history because we have to concern ourselves with literature. This is the Anglo-Norman period. This is the historical background. In my next video, of course, we're going to talk about the literary characteristics and the works that have come out from this period. So I really hope that this video has been of help to you, and if it has, then please don't forget to like my video, share my video, and subscribe to my channel for similar content. If you like what you see, then please do support my channel and my endeavors. It will mean a lot to me. Our family is growing, Literature Fam, and I'm really grateful to you for all the support that you've been showing my channel. And of course, till we meet again, I really hope that you stay healthy and happy. See you in the next one, guys.